Welcome to another Awaken Heartist podcast. This episode, I'm going to talk about therapy. Having just finished a therapy session myself, I figured it was only fitting to talk about the benefits of it and, what I've gotten from it, pretty much, from what I've been through to where I'm at now. I'll get into a little bit of my history with therapy. As a teenager, it was the first time I ever experienced having to go to therapy. My dad had put me in therapy because I was just a fucking mess, honestly, at the time. I was into cutting myself a lot for reasons I won't get into now, but I also, being suicidal, having suicidal thoughts. I wouldn't say I was suicidal. My dad felt that it was important for me to go to therapy, and probably rightfully so, but at the time, I knew what I needed was more from him. And my circumstances with being poor and the death that was going on in my life and not knowing how to handle grief and not being able to fit in. There were so many different things that were just piled on that a lot of teenagers feel. That was my first experience with it. So my first experience is basically being forced into it, and wasn't very successful as far as I remember. I just remember not wanting to be there and not wanting to talk. But the second time around, I chose to go to therapy because I had just ended a really fucked up relationship that I was in. And I'm probably in my mid-20s. A lot of problems, a lot of things that within that relationship. Again, something else I'll touch on maybe some other time or maybe never. But either way out, I really needed help then, and I had seeked it out and found that it just was a waste of time. But as far as the third time ended up being a different situation. This situation was about me trying to fix a relationship I'd been in for quite some time. This relationship ended up lasting around 8 years, and somewhere in the middle of it, maybe towards the end of it, I don't know exactly. I had, talked with my partner, and I was this fucked up mess that needed to get therapy. I wasn't physically abusive or mentally abusive or anything like that, but just I had a lot of grief issues and a lot of me not being me issues. That I really needed to work through. But at the time, I was doing it more for my relationship and not for myself. And that ended up being part of the problem. I had at that time got diagnosed with ADD, and I had went through all these tests, and somewhere down those lines, I ended up getting prescribed with some drugs. And I had been down this road before. I'd taken a lot of antidepressants in the past. With the last, I think it's a psychiatrist. I always get these confused, but I believe it was a psychiatrist. I just know who I see now as a therapist, and what works for me as the therapist, because the medicine didn't work for me. Doesn't mean it can't work for you or anybody else. I totally get that, but for me, it doesn't work. The last time, and when I was in the relationship, I just couldn't find a therapist that made sense for me. I had ended up seeing 3 or 4 that I would give about a month time period, and then I would quit, sometimes even shorter than that. One guy was literally, I went once or twice. I felt like he was from a different era and didn't understand me. So I was out on him right away. But yes, I tried somebody else, and I don't know, just never ended up working out. But this time around, I've been going to the same therapist since February of 2001. It is now mid-June of 2022, so about a year and a half. And I absolutely love, therapy now. I go once a week for about an hour. It has been largely beneficial. For me, I've learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about myself through really just, let me rewind a little bit here. One of the important things about when you're searching for a therapist, one of the hardest things that people, for one, it's finding a therapist, right? One of the reasons why some people, at least for me in the past, I didn't want to go to therapy because I had had these challenges of trying to find the right therapist and they're just not vibing with them and them making sense for me. That's a big problem, trying to find someone that you can feel vulnerable with and then eventually trust. And that's huge to therapy. And that there's that. And then there's the idea that what can therapy do for me? I don't see how it could benefit me. How, talking to someone, a lot of people feel that way. I, having been one of those people at one point in time, but from my experience, just from my vantage point, my perspective, in finding my therapist, I got lucky, but it took me quite a few therapists before I found the right one. And for me, it was a little important to find someone. I have a lot of my issues primarily with my parents, but I've struggled in relationships with women. So it was important for me to find a woman that could maybe understand and help me with that side of myself. Being a pretty masculine, having a more of a masculine energy than the feminine energy. Myself, I'm looking for balance here. So it was about finding someone that could help me with that. And that was important to me somewhat. But yeah, now where I'm at though, I'm very happy because, again, like I was saying, I have found so many flaws or weaknesses, and that's what they are, deep inside. But they're really just parts of me that can be looked at as flaws or weaknesses.
Weak sauce, bro.
But also my strengths at the same time. There's been a fair balance of both. It's really just about figuring out yourself and understanding yourself. At least that's what therapy has been for me. It's been a lot of digging into myself. I think it's one of the biggest fears of people. They just don't really realize they don't want to dig into themselves because, there's a part of you that you are, what part of you is the person that was just born that way? What part of your personality, of who you are, the personality traits that you came into the world with. How much of that person are you today? How much of your environment has changed that person in a good way or a bad way? Some of us more bad than good. And it's kind of, in therapy, one of the things I've learned is to go back and try to pinpoint these moments where my environment has changed me into something different, or a situation has affected me subconsciously that I'm not even aware of in multiple ways throughout my life, causing anxiety and fear, anger, sadness. And some of that shit's embedded in your subconscious, so you don't even know it's there. So talking through all of this, talking through your life and what's going on with you, sometimes when you have someone that has a neutral perspective that's not brother or a sister or a friend, someone that has that neutral role, our people we're closest to, we play roles in their life. And sometimes it's hard for people to step out of those roles and have the right perspective for you. And a therapist is a good person because as long as you feel and you trust that that's the place that they're coming from, they're holding a space for you to be able to get these things out, and they come from just a neutral place of, I don't want to say the word judgment, it sounds too harsh, but because it's not really judgment, it's just a perspective of what is going on with you and helping you notice maybe some things that you're not willing to notice. And sometimes those things are pretty ugly. Sometimes those things are just, you're just not very comfortable with those. But coming from my experience, I can honestly tell you that is good shit. When you find those things, sure, at first you might be like, oh yeah, I don't want to talk about that. Yuck. Fuck that. I don't like that. I don't want to talk about that or think about that. That's me. But once you become aware of that ugly part of yourself that you're not exactly proud of, it starts to break down walls, because that one thing that you might not be proud of affects you in so many different parts of your life. Once you expose it and you're aware of it, you can start to see when it rears its ugly head in whatever situation that that it comes up in. And you can start to stop it from happening by just being aware of it. So in all actuality is like, people will say, oh my God, I don't want to go to therapy and find out how fucked up I am. Who wants to do that? Doesn't sound like any fun. Well, if you, in a sense, don't find out the things that kind of make you quote unquote fucked up, then you'll never be able to fix the moments that you're not proud of yourself, because that fucked up thing is coming through in your everyday life. So you're kind of making more room for you to be a better person, the person you're more comfortable with. That's what therapy has done. It's shown me my strengths, my weaknesses, my becoming more aware. I've learned to have gratitude for the little moments. I've learned to really be mindful of life. Not living in the future and not living in the past has been a very big important thing. And I've just learned that by being able to see it. My therapist explaining, how to jump out and have a little perspective on given situations. And that for me has been very life-changing for me. I'm much more appreciative. If I'm sitting in the backyard, a lot of times just who I am, I have go, nonstop energy sometimes. And for me, slowing down is extremely difficult. Hence why I like to drink alcohol sometimes. It's the ultimate way to slow me down and relax me. Not a healthy way, I'm sure, for most people, but it works for me to, time to time to be able to have some drinks and slow myself down and have fun with it. But beyond that, I'm just saying, with the moments I'm sitting in my backyard, there's been a lot of times where I can't just sit down and watch my kids play and do what they do and just sit and observe and appreciate the moment. Or the dog heard us running around and enjoying the beautiful sun and the green grass and just being able to enjoy that, as opposed to not having that in the wintertime. All of these things, just having the gratitude for those moments has been awesome. It slowed me down. It slowed me down mentally and emotionally to be able to be more appreciative, and made me a happier person, much more relaxed person. That's for sure. I'm not as uptight as I was before, but that and the fact that I'm aware of my strengths and my weaknesses now more than I ever was. And I'm able to get a good idea on my potential, on what I'm able to accomplish through my strengths and my weaknesses. You know your limitations. You know what you're good or bad, what you're able to accomplish. So you can set reasonable goals and make things happen. No one likes to set goals they can't accomplish because they're not willing to recognize that they have weaknesses that would stop them from doing them, accomplishing the goals. That sucks. It will also stop you from having goals, which I think are very important. Another thing being relationships. The certain things I've learned that communication, sure, I've been a great communicator, but as far as like talking and getting my feelings out, but I was always a bad communicator in the listening aspect, which is largely important. Now I'm just able to observe that from time to time and slow myself down and say, be a better listener. And I've improved with time because of that. That's another big thing. I also have learned to understand my balance of my day-to-day, finding all of the things that are important to me, my creativity, time with my kids, my job, how I earn a living, my goals, doing a podcast, having a blog, being able to spend time with my friends and family. I like to watch sports, So all these different aspects of me trying to balance all that out. Also realizing one of the most important things for me is I used to battle with the idea that why do I one day feel like this and the next day feel like this? I'm having, it's like one day I'm having high, I'm super, super happy and I'm in a great place. And the next day I'm just kind of blah and I don't feel like doing anything. I'm super introverted one day and the next day wanting to be amongst a lot of people. And just that, I've always struggled with that for a long time. Always thinking the days that I want to be super introverted because people are like, why do you got to stay at home? Why can't you come hang out with us and be with, why don't you want to hang out with the group of friends, and, or family at the same time, just because one day I want to, and then it's like I'm drained in a way of that. And then I want to go completely inward. I used to be very thinking something's wrong with me because I didn't want to hang out with people and people making me feel like there was something wrong with me. And that's fine. I understand from their perspective, they just wanted to hang out with me. But for me, I needed to realize myself that that's okay, that that's just how I am. I am a mixed bag. One day I can be super emotional where, the deaths in my life really affect me, or just the kindness of people, make me emotional. And other days I'm kind of this battle-hardened warrior with all this strength, so finding a balance amongst all that and noticing these parts of me has helped me so much understand how to live my life happier and to be in a good place. And I think at the same time, I get to show my kids and help them become that as well. They definitely don't have a life that I did. So they have a lot less damage, or a lot less damage control than I do at this moment in time, thankfully. But, because I've gone through therapy, it's helped me out a lot to be able to be a better parent as well. So I guess what I'm saying. So it's been largely beneficial. And I hope that if you ever thought about it, don't look at it as a weakness, because I did at one point. To think that I'm not strong enough to be able to handle my own shit. I completely think the opposite of that. I think that we all, believe me, I think I'm a bad motherfucker for what I've been through and what I've handled and where I'm at. I couldn't have done that without the help of others. And the more I've gotten older, I've realized that people in your life are largely important. Relationships. Without them, we would be a complete mess. So try to, if it's something you're interested in or thought about, like I said, try it. Never look at it as a weakness. Worst case scenario, you're just going there and you're talking to a complete stranger and venting some shit out. But yeah, again, I appreciate listening to my ramblings, my random thoughts. I hope this benefited you in some way. Please leave messages, through Instagram. I'm on Instagram primarily. Please leave comments, questions, or anything. And appreciate all the support. Thanks. If you'd like to learn more about me and my experiences, follow @AwakenHeartist on Instagram or visit the website awakenheartist.com.